quickly people were willing to literally take to the streets over this, right? Everybody needs to be able to go to court, no matter what your immigration status is. Maybe you're the victim of a crime. Maybe you're a witness in an important case. Maybe you're a defendant. If people are too scared to come to court now because Trump's immigration agents are lying in wait at court to arrest them, then courts will not be able to function fairly or effectively for anyone. Judges are responsible for the safety of everybody who appears before the court for any reason, right? For the safety and security of those people so they can do their lawful business before the court. If Trump's immigration agents are staking out courthouses to grab people, to kidnap people, once they show up to take part in a lawful court proceeding, that stops judges from fulfilling their responsibilities under the law for what happens with their cases and in their courtrooms. Now, this was also a point of tension in Trump's first term. In Trump's first term, he also sent immigration agents to go to try to arrest people at their court appearances. And it was a flashpoint then. State judges have a duty to ensure the safety of the people who appear before them in court, whether as plaintiffs or defendants or witnesses. Well, today, a whole new level. Today, the FBI arrested a county judge in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. According to the FBI, this judge knew that Trump's immigration agents were outside her courtroom waiting to arrest a man who was before her court. They say she sent the immigration agents away from her hearing room and then escorted the man and his lawyer out of the courtroom through a private exit. For that, the Trump administration has arrested her and charged her with 2 felonies. She herself arrested, brought before a federal court, and then released today on her own recognizance. Her attorney says that the judge intends to defend herself vigorously. He says she looks forward to being exonerated. But if this feels like an insane and reckless escalation from the Trump administration arresting a judge, I will tell you, you are not alone. It sure felt like that to lots of people in Wisconsin today. People who showed up outside the federal courthouse in Milwaukee after the judge was arrested. More than 100 people out there today on no notice on a Friday in the middle of the day to spontaneously show up and protest the arrest of this judge in Milwaukee. Just instant reaction to this bright new line that's been crossed by Trump. It's being treated as a crisis by members of Congress, too. This was Maryland Congressman Jamie Raskin today. He said, every American should be deeply troubled by this massive escalation. This is an unmistakable descent further into authoritarian chaos. Joining us now is Congressman Raskin of Maryland. He's the top Democrat on the Judiciary Committee. Sir, thank you so much for being here. I know it's a really busy time.
Delighted to be with you, Rachel.
Let me ask you if any of the way that I explained that sort of seems the wrong way around to you, or if it seems like I'm putting the emphasis in the wrong place. It seems to me that Trump having a judge arrested is a reckless and desperate move. It seems to me like, yes, there are connections to previous flashpoints and tensions that Trump has raised in even his first term by trying to put federal immigration agents into state courts. But to me, this mostly just seems crazy.
Well, I regard it very much within the prism of what we've been dealing with over the last month, which is an intense assault on judicial independence. They have been disobeying federal court orders systematically. They have incurred criminal contempt findings in the courtroom of Judge Boasberg, a conservative Republican judge. They have been demanding the impeachment of judges who rule against the lawlessness of the Trump administration. There are now more than 90 preliminary injunctions and temporary restraining orders against the chaos that's been unleashed on the country by the Trump administration. And now they're arresting judges. And the first felony criminal charge brought against Judge Hannah Dugan in Wisconsin is interfering with a legal proceeding, which is essentially what they've been doing all along. What Judge Boasberg is about to hold them in criminal contempt for, and has found that there is probable cause for criminal contempt, is that they deliberately ignored and defied his order not to take off in those airplanes headed for El Salvador and not turning the airplanes around. So on the logic of this arrest of Judge Dugan, all of the people in the Trump administration who participated in defying that order by Judge Boasberg themselves could be arrested for interfering with a legal proceeding and perhaps other criminal charges like kidnapping, as you were suggesting before.
Jail cell for hours before her arraignment was called in the court later in the afternoon. These things are unprecedented. Typically, upstanding members of the community who have no criminal history and aren't accused of a violent act are allowed to self-surrender at the time of their arraignment. The fact that they did not offer that courtesy to her and instead went out of their way to treat her harshly, I believe is an act of performative cruelty on behalf of the Department of Justice, which is not the way any Department of Justice should be acting. Then their conduct in going directly to the media and spiking the football over this arrest of a member of the judiciary, also a departure from policy, totally unnecessary, and I think inappropriate by an attorney general and an FBI director.
Andrew McCabe, thank you.
For more legal perspective, I want to bring in now former Miami-Dade County Court Judge Jeff Schwarz. Great to see you. So Attorney General Pam Bondi says no one is above the law and accuses the Milwaukee County Circuit Court Judge Hannah Dugan of helping an undocumented immigrant evade arrest. So in your view, is this arrest tantamount to the allegation?
I think there's a probable cause finding that is going to have to be made. I think that what happened here is that the DOJ knew they could not go to a grand jury and obtain an indictment during the 1 week period that I think that they procrastinated over this. They decided to go with a warrant. I think the worst part about this is that they arrested her at the courthouse. They perp walked her through the courthouse. This was meant as an intimidation technique and to embarrass her. Okay, instead of going to her home that morning and arresting her at her home. Now, is there probable cause here to have arrested her in the first place? There might well have been. I wasn't there. Everybody has their perspective of what occurred and why she let that person go out the side door from the jury. But that only dumped him into the hallway where she knew those agents were. So I'm not sure she was trying to help him escape. It is possible she just didn't want the arrest in front of her courtroom where everybody was gathered in the hallway. And I can understand that.
So this very public arrest of the judge, is the Trump administration sending a message to judges or to the masses?
I think she's sending a message to judges that's passed on to the masses. And that is, you're not safe in court. If you're an illegal alien or an illegal immigrant and you are in court, you have to worry about being there. Now, that interrupts the flow of the criminal justice system because they're not going to show up as witnesses. They're not going to show up as victims. They're not going to show up as defendants. And now the whole system starts to break down. As far as judges are concerned, they're being forced in a way to cooperate. It is pretty standard for judges not wanting people arrested in their courtroom. I don't think they're going to back off of that. And I think that in essence, in a lot of places, you're not allowed to arrest people inside the courthouse, whether you're a Fed or whether you're a local police officer. They want these things to take place outside of the courthouse itself. And I have a feeling that that's going to be a part of the confrontation that's going to take place in the future.
The Justice Department on Friday announced criminal charges in 2 separate cases involving judges as the Trump administration focuses on judges' conduct relating to immigration enforcement. A Wisconsin judge was arrested and charged in federal court Friday for allegedly helping an undocumented immigrant avoid arrest. Judge Hannah Dugan faces 2 charges for obstruction and concealing an individual from arrest outside her courtroom. A statement was released on behalf of Judge Dugan saying she will, I'm quoting now, will defend herself vigorously and looks forward to being exonerated, end quote. Also on Friday, a former New Mexico judge and his wife were arrested for allegedly tampering with evidence related to the federal investigation of a Venezuelan national. CNN correspondent Julia Vargas-Jones has more on all of this. Julia, walk us through what happened.
Well, Fred, it all started with a tip back in January that undocumented migrants were living on a judge's property in Las Cruces, New Mexico. And in possession of firearms. That home belonged to the former county judge Jose Luisano and his wife Nancy Cano. Authorities allege that, in court documents, that one of the people living on the property was Christian Ortega Lopez, that Venezuelan national who they say is a member of a gang called Tren de Aragua. In the complaint, there are multiple photos and videos of this migrant who appears to be holding, in a shooting range, holding handguns or assault-style rifles. In different of those images you see there, investigators say that in those photos, that's how they identify tattoos, clothing, and other hand gestures that they say are commonly associated with Tren de Aragua, saying that provided strong evidence of his potential connection to the gang. Judge Cano denies ever knowing of the possible gang affiliation, writing in a letter to the court, "Let me be as crystal clear as possible. The very first time I ever heard that the men could possibly have any association with Tren de Aragua was when I was informed of that by the agents on the day of the raid." But federal authorities also claim that the judge admitted to smashing a cell phone with a hammer because it could have had photos of Ortega Lopez holding firearms, and that his wife, Nancy, consulted with the alleged gang member over how to delete Facebook posts. Judge Cano is now charged with tampering with evidence, while his wife is charged with conspiracy to tamper with evidence. We've reached out to their attorney for comment. Judge Cano resigned in March after the case first came to light. Fred, and the New Mexico Supreme Court ordered then for him to never run for judicial office in the future. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi said that this is part of her effort to go after judges seen as hindering this administration's immigration policy.
All right, Julia Vargas Jones, thank you so much.
The judge is absolutely uniting people. Again, I've talked about this. Sometimes there are moments where people become martyrs. Again, they're like, we've taught literal martyrs, people who lose their lives, but often like metaphorical martyrs, of course, people who are criminalized, people who are silenced, people who are censored, people who are targeted by authoritarian regimes. And what this is showcased is just how much Trump is like, say, a Putin. Because the United States, including Republicans, they've often done this. They've paraded around foreign dissidents, right? Many of them have been. Some of them have just been American CIA assets or whatever. But some of them have been legitimate dissidents. And they've said, this person is brave because they stood up to this authoritarian and they were arrested and charged, or their families were arrested, or they fled the country because another judge was arrested or whatnot. And we don't do that here. Ergo, we are better. And simply by existing and being arrested, this woman has sort of trapped Republicans. Because now they look every bit like the anti-free speech, anti-freedom warriors that Republicans, including Trump, have complained about. You can never listen to a Republican complain about a democratic socialist government or any kind of left-wing government. Anytime a Republican now whines about Cuba or Venezuela, the dictator's Donald. He's the one arresting judges as we speak. And so this judge has exposed the entire project of Republican human rights hypocrisy simply by existing in this world.